Okay, good morning, everyone. Boker Tov. I'd like to welcome everybody back to this week's edition of Insights into the Weekly Parsha. This week's Parshas, Parshas Sisa, Parshas Para. We have in the Art Scroll Blue Stone Chumashim, for those of you who would like to follow with us, page 484 in the Hebrew, page 485 in the English. We have a beautiful day here in Boker Tov. So happy to be able to learn together with you. Before we get started, I would like to acknowledge and thank our very generous sponsors of this morning's Learning Insights of the Weekly Parsha, generously sponsored by our very dear and beloved friends Nancy Eisenberg and Dr. Mark Brandress. We're sponsoring this morning's learning commemoration of the art site of Nancy's beloved mother, Marilyn Eisenberg, Lula Nishmas, Mincy Shendel, Bas Malka V'Moshe. Her neshama should have an aliyah, should be a zchus, a merit for the entire family. She was an incredibly special woman. I felt very privileged to know her, to meet her, and to know what kind of incredibly, exceptionally special woman she was, the beautiful family that she was so proud of. Her neshama should have an aliyah, and we thank you both so much for your generosity and for your sponsorship and for sponsoring this Torah class. Zecher Nishma Sa. So our Parsha this morning, the Shabbos rather, is very packed, jam-packed with so many life lessons, so much intrigue, so much curiosity, so much wonder, this incredible degradation, high downfall, the chet ha'egel, the sin of the golden calf, the pause, the waiting for Moshe Rabbeinu, the curiosity as to when he will come, what has happened to him, what is the response of the people. The Torah in Parshas Sisa tells of this tragic story of the chet ha'egel, the tragic sin of the golden calf. And what's fascinating is in the events prior, the events during, and then we're going to focus our attention on the events immediately after. What we read, what we learn, what we study in our Bible and our Chumash is that after Bnei Yisrael, they fashioned the golden calf, this molten image that would become what they hoped to be the in place of Moshe Rabbeinu, which was tragic in its thought, tragic in its manifestation. They wanted to offer karbonos, offering sacrifices to it. So then what the Torah tells us in Perek Lamed Beis, Pasuk Vav, chapter 32, verse 6, that what the people did is they sat, the nation, they sat down and they ate and they drank, and then they got up to revel. And all these words are very significant, and the ideology and the facts for which they found themselves engaged in what we'll see, this type of activity, is highly significant. The pasuk tells us, "Vayashkimu mimacharas," that the next day they got up. Now the word vayashkimu in this context is significant because we know that the word vayashkem is to get up with a sense of purpose, a sense of alacrity, with a sense of zurizus. Vayashkem Avraham baboker, Abraham, our forefather, got up early in the morning to daven tefillah shachris. The Gemara Brachos teaches us that is how we are likewise to and supposed to engage in tefillah with a sense of purpose, a sense of vayashkem vayavram baboker. Abraham got up early. We get up early and to fulfill the mitzvahs as with a sense of zeal and purpose as much and as quickly, expediently as we possibly can. And they got up to offer offerings. And here are the words, and what happened is the people sat down and they ate and they drank. Now, sitting down and eating and drinking after an event is very familiar to us. We know that the way we celebrate, the way we engage, holidays and festivals, Shabbos and the like. So we engage, we eat, we drink, we make merriment. We don't do it as a simcha shel holelos, but a simcha shel mitzvah. And that's part of, we're going to focus our attention on why that is significant. And they got up after they were sitting and after they were drinking, and they went to revel. They went to make merry. A lot of commentary on these words. So first, let's just go with the basics. Rashi in his commentary, Vayashkimu, what does it mean, Vayashkimu? So really what Rashi tells us that the Satan, the Sitra Achra, the demonic force that is the antithesis of all that is good and that is virtuous of how we engage in Torah's Hashem Temima and the mitzvos, that the Satan, so he made them zealous, made them feel a sense of excitement, pizzazz, in order that they should sin, that they should fall, because we understand that later that day, Moshe Rabbeinu actually came down from the mountain, he returned back to the people, and Satan, knowing this, was very anxious. Rashi says, Hasatan Zerzam, he was a Zoriz, he was with alacrity, he himself was with purpose and with a sense of high need and high accomplishment that was pressing. Why? Because with a sense of Zerizos that he encouraged them to fall terribly in the grips of sin. Because Kadeshech Yechetu, in order that they should sin, that they should fall, that they should become distant and rachuk from the Rebbeinu Shalom. That's what Rashi says in his compilation of description and explanation of the word Vayashkimu. Now the Medrash in Shmos Rabbah in Perek Mem Aleph, in the 41st chapter in the Medrash, makes a very interesting observation and takes note of a word that is in this sentence, and that word is Vayeshev. What's Vayeshev mean? That they sat. Now what does it mean that they sat? They sat and they ate, and they were to relax, and they were to take in the experience. And it seems to be rather innocuous. It seems to be innocuous in the sense that, what's the big deal? They sat. But we know that there's no one word, not one letter in the entire Torah that isn't without explanation, that isn't without interpretation, that isn't without meaning. So the Medrash in Shmos Rabbah explains that this word Vayeshev, actually used in this context, has deep meaning. Now, while the term itself seems to be rather benign, there is nothing surprising about its usage in this narrative, right? Because after they are rebellious, they sit down and they take it all in. But the Medrash says that no, there's a pattern of the use of this word in biblical narratives that actually involves many grave sins, many very difficult falls in the abyss of the Jewish people that have fallen to sin over a litany of various events. And that litany of events is identified by the similarity in the usage of this word, Vayeshev, says the Medrash. Now, what are the examples? And he gives three. So the three examples, the first is, if you remember, in Bereshis Perek Yud Aleph Pasuk Beis, the story of the Migdal Bavel, the Tower of Babel. So they began when the people, what did they do? Vayeshvu, the people settled in the Shinar Valley. What does the Pasuk say? Vayhi, Manasa Mikedem, Vayimtsu, Bika Be'eretz Shinar, Vayeshevu Sham. They came and they traveled from the east. They found the valley in the land of Shinar, and Vayeshvu Sham. This is the first example by Migdal Bavel, which was the very grave initiation of the dispersion of the people, languages that would have to be now unique to different locations, geography and topography. Now we understand this word Vayeshvu is significant. That's what it says, example number one. Understanding number two, we all know in the story of the Mechiras Yosef, the sale of Joseph from the brothers, selling Joseph, turning the back on him, understanding what the story and the consequence of that was, we read that the brothers, after they sold Yosef, after the Mechiras Yosef, what does the Pasuk say? That they sat to eat bread. Vayeshvu le'echol lechem, Bereshis, Lamed Zayin, Pasuk Chaf Hey, chapter 37, verse 25, says the Medrash. This is before they sold Yosef. He was in the pit. Vayeshvu le'echol lechem. They sat down and they went to eat a meal. Could you imagine your brother sitting in the pit? You've just turned your back on him, and imagine the circumstances. What are they going to do? They're going to have a meal. They're going to chill. They're going to relax. And they looked. They lifted their eyes, and what did they see? They saw that there was a caravan of Yishmaelim that was coming from Gilad, and there was camels, Gimolim, Noisim. There was a load of Holchim, Laharid Mitzrayim. There was a lot of spices and various other materials. And they're going down to Mitzrayim, they're going down to Egypt. So they had the thought, let's sell our brother. But what does the Pasuk tell us? It doesn't just tell us that they lifted their eyes and they saw this caravan and they realized it's coming from and where it's going. And so we'll have this idea, we'll sell Yosef to this entourage. No. The Pasuk tells us, the very beginning of the Pasuk, Vayeshvu le'echol lechem, they sat and they ate bread. Why does the Torah have to tell us they sat to eat bread? Again, another example. The second of the three examples, says the Medrash, that we see the word Vayeshev, Vayeshvu in this context, is a sense of grave sin. What's going to happen as a result of that is significant, extraordinary, cataclysmic. And finally, when the Torah introduces the tragic story of the Baal Peor and Bamidbar, Chav Hei Aleph, when the Torah tells us in chapter 25, Pasuk Aleph, verse number 1 in the book of Bamidbar, where the Bnei Israel, they were engaged ritually and sexually with the women of Moab, when this was a great affront to the Teres Hashem, the way we're supposed to follow. So the Pasuk says, Vayeshev Yisrael b'Shittim, that they settled in Shittim. Vayeshev Yisrael b'Shittim, Vayochel ha'am liznois el b'nois Moav. That they began to commit this harlotry with the daughters, the women of Moab. When did that happen? Vayeshev Yisrael b'Shittim. Also, again, the third context of the word Vayeshev. So here we see that the context in these three areas, says the Medrash, identify a pattern of using this word Vayeshev. And while we'll see that this is significant with regards to those three, says the Medrash that there's a fourth and there's another, and that's where we find ourselves in Parshas Sisa. That in the case of the golden calf, the Chet HaEgel, we find that the perpetrators were sitting to eat. Vayeshev ham, they were ha'am le'echol, the people, the nation, they sat to eat. So here he says that this is the pattern that's unique to this word, that's unique to sin, that's unique to where we link the three previous ones to now this one in Parshas Sisa. And so therefore, when the pasuk says Vayeshev ha'am le'echol, it's not stam, it's not by chance, it's not that we're just hearing what they were doing in the immediacy or in the aftermath of certain events, and in this case, the aftermath of this egregious sin, this egregious falling prey to the temptation of Avera. No, we're not just interested in what kind of meal they had. They ordered sushi, they ordered pizza, they had salad. We're not interested, we don't care, except for what it teaches us, what is the mindset, and what is the philosophy, what is the theology, and what is the life lesson for us to take away and for us to understand. So Vayeshev ha'am le'echol, says the Medrash, that whenever you find sitting, you find an offense. And these are very important words in this sentence from the Medrash, a direct quote, where the Medrash says, Kol makom shata motzei yeshiva, in any place that you find sitting, shata motzei sham takala, in that place you'll find an offense, you'll find the takala, you'll find a degradation, you'll find a loss, you'll find an abysmal fall. Now, this is a very, very, very important line in the Medrash. Because we have to understand what it means, but here you have this link in this pattern. And the question, of course, we have to understand and try to figure out is, how do we explain the association between the term Vayeshev, sitting, and sinful behavior? Is that really true? Anytime you sit down, that means you're going to come to an Aveira? Of course not. Does that mean that there aren't examples in Chumash throughout Tanakh where a person was Yeshev and a person sat, and that means that now they fell prey? Obviously not. So we have to understand, what does this mean? What is this on a deeper level? How are we to interpret this in our lives? Kol makom shata motzei yeshiva, ata motzei sham takala. So listen to this. So there's a Rav by the name of Rabbi Yehuda Lev Ginsburg, and he wrote a beautiful set of svarim on Perush on Chumash, and the name of those svarim is the Yalkut Yehuda. And he has in the Yalkut Yehuda a beautiful explanation and a very important interpretation where he explains that the Chachamim understood something. They detected within this term a connotation that's not just like the physicality of actually just sitting in a chair, that means that I'm walking and now I'm sitting, and therefore because I'm sitting, I'm going to now sin. No. He understands what the Chachamim realized is that there's something in the word, there's something in the person, there's something in the psyche. It was a connotation of something else, a connotation of lax, a connotation of lethargy, a connotation of complacency, a connotation of comfort. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have physical comforts in this world. Of course, we yearn, want, and do have, and that's okay within the context of what's appropriate. But what we understand, says the Yalkut Yehuda, is that there's something about this word Vayeshev, a complacency, that is a preliminary, a precursor of something that's bad, something that does not equal growth. And not only is it that it doesn't equal growth, is that it equals Yerida. Because what we understand in the world of Ruchnis, in the world of spirituality, for example, it's not like when you go to the mall and you go onto an escalator, you're either ascending or descending. It is that. It's not that a person's remaining complacent. It's not like a person is just status quo. It's like when you're on an escalator, either you're oilev yored. It's either you're up or you're down. You're either ascending or descending. And so therefore, there's no middle ground. It's either one or the other. And so therefore, it's not just that you're not accomplishing. It's something that you're not achieving, pursuing. Is that in the absence of not being able to pursue something, it means that you're actually falling. It means you're diminished. It means that you're not able to reach the highest level of where you're able to achieve. But it means that you're not status quo and stagnant. It means that you're having a Yerida. That means you're falling. That means you are now not even on status level footing. You are now lessened. And that's very important to understand growth in religiosity, growth in all areas of life, understanding the kryptonite of complacency. When a person feels comfort, when a person feels vayeshev, when a person is now no longer engaged and active, when a person is now in a sense of mindlessness and wandering, but a sense of understanding the need for a person to be up and at it, to rise up and to get to it. So we understand from the Medrash that beyond the word's narrow definition of a sitting position, which is obviously not what it's only referring to, or settlement of a certain geographic location where you live and where you are and where you sit physically, that's not what I was talking about. There's a verb, the verb vayeshev also alludes to a general sense of ease, a sense of contentment. What's that contentment? A contentment with oneself. Now, when a person wants shalva and shalom, you want to have contentment. You want to have nachas. You want to have, peace and tranquility. Obviously, it's something we yearn for, but there's a certain sense of contentment with oneself that the Yalkut Yehuda is explaining to us that we have to understand is the bullseye target that limits a person's ability to grow, to ascend, to achieve, and to be able to reach their goals in the greatest amount of success. And this is what I want to share with you. What he says in the languages inside where we learn it together is special, is extraordinary, and important for us to learn. Says the Alki Yehuda, Ki Loshen Yeshiva, you have to say that the language yeshiva, it means it's moinach b'mishu nimtza b'menuchas halev. You know what it means? That a person is, not just that he's sitting physically, but it means menuchas halev means that he has a complacency of his heart. It means that he's at rest. His heart is at rest. His heart, not in the physical sense, a person would die, but it means that your heart is at rest. You're not alive. You're not ambitious. You're complacent. You're soft. In that sense, your heart, your ambition is stumped. It's thwarted. Your efforts are just uninspired, unenthusiastic, undermotivated. That's what it is. So you should know that a tzaddik, the difference between a righteous and a wicked, says that tzaddik ein lo menucha ba'olam hazeh. A righteous person, a tzaddik who we yearn and aspire and crave to be like, is a person who does not have menucha in olam hazeh, does not rest in this world. A person can rest in olam haba. A person can rest in the after this world. What's this world? This is a makom. This is a place of asiyah. This is a place of doing. This is a place of performing. A place of action. A place of accomplishment, a place of doing mitzvos and accumulating in the spiritual bank account all that you're able to accomplish and accrue in this time, in this place, in Olam Hazeh, in this world. And a tzaddik, and of the tzidkonios, the righteous men, the righteous women, they do not have menucha. There's always an opportunity that I can achieve more, that I can accomplish more, that I can gain more mitzvos, more betterment, more success, more ability to be able to achieve and accomplish dveikus, closeness to the Almighty. That is a tzaddik ein lo menucha ba'olam hazeh. Why? Because he's constantly thinking, because even if you've achieved, even if you've accomplished, even if you've reached a certain crescendo, a certain place of success, there's always more, there's always higher, there's always greater, there's always a higher madrega, a higher rung of spirituality that a person can come to, can achieve, can want to get to. To be elevated, l'mayla, mimadrega, to go from one level to another level. Umi shehu b'menuchas hanefesh, and a person who lives with a sense of complacency. A menuchas hanefesh is in this context that he feels uninspired, doesn't need to go. I've reached this place. I'm at this juncture, and it's sufficient. We all know that in the world of business and physicality and materialism, even a person who's reached this high level of great success, rarely do we find that person says, you know what, I'm good. I'm finished, done, final. I can always achieve more. If I've bought one building, I need 5 buildings. I bought 5 buildings, I need 10 buildings. I bought 10 buildings, you get the point. That there's always a level of achieving beyond what it is that I myself think that I got to, the place that I've accomplished. No. The Menuchas HaNefesh is referring to ve'enu mishtadol yosel alois lamayla. If a person now no longer wants to achieve, no longer craves higher levels of elevation, growing, wanting, yearning, to elevate, to be uplifted from one level to another, so it should be he doesn't want anymore alois. Like the escalator analogy. It's as if he's already on his way down. There's no stagnant. There's no status quo. He's oile v'yored. He's up, he's down, he's high, he's low. If he's not high, then he is low. And that's what he explained. This is the difference between a Benoni, a commoner, a regular, an uninspired. A person who's a rasha, a wicked, versus a person who's a tzaddik, a person who's righteous, a person who wants greatness, a person who perceives greatness, a person who's committed their whole life to achieve greatness, to grasp, to be typhus, the gedula, the greatness that is of the individual, the greatness of the family, the greatness of the Jewish people, the greatness of the world, the opportunity that's there. That's what he explains, that Loshen Yeshiva is moinach b'mishu nimtza b'menuchas halev. This is not where we hope to be. Where we hope to be, says the Alki Yehuda, is we hope to be as individuals who are like the tzaddikim, that they do not rest. They want lisraimim, they want higher, they want elevated, they want to be inspired. There's not vayeshev, there's oile, there's yeredes, there's running, there's ruts, not yeredes. I'm not falling, but I am running, I'm achieving, I'm anxious. I want to be able to be the best version of myself, and I'm as committed as possible with every fiber of my being to getting it, to achieving it, and to working every day of my life in Olam Hazeh, in this world, to know there's no rest in Olam Hazeh. There's no rest in this world. I have an opportunity after another opportunity, and after this mitzvah, I hope that it's gereris another mitzvah. As the Mishnah tells us, mitzvah, gereris, mitzvah. One mitzvah opportunity presents itself, another. And this is the idea where the understanding of the Chachamim, the sages, which we understand the Yalkut is explaining what the Medrash means, that the pattern of the word Vayeshev is a warning against feeling too comfortable with yourself, feeling too complacent. Look what happens. It's Oila or it's Yerid. Now, it's interesting to, as a Hisafa, as an addition to this, the very well known book, New York Times bestseller, Grit, written by Dr. Angela Duckworth, talks about the perseverance and the passion and the alacrity and the zeal to which a person is able to achieve something. So I just want to share with you one quote from this book, and there's so many, and a mindset, because this mindset is this idea. She says as follows: when you keep searching for ways to change your situation, so for the better, meaning when a person is really engaged in trying to do it, so then she writes, you stand a chance of finding them. But when you stop searching, assuming they can't be found, you guarantee they've won, which means that if there are forces outside of you or ambitions that are outside of you that you think they're just not possible for you to achieve, or obstacles you're just not able to overcome, circumstances stay in your way, which you're not able to hop over, you're not able to leapfrog and to be able to be successful. If you think that you can't do it, then you can't do it. When you keep searching for change to your situation for the better, then you have a chance. Then it's a possibility. The second you stop, then you're out. Meaning the only guarantee of failure is to stop trying, right? If you stop trying to achieve, to get to a place, then you'll never get there. People seem to believe that some things are just not possible. Now, maybe that's true. Maybe there's certain things that just are not possible. But if you're an ambitious person and you really believe if it's true, if it's best, if it's emes, if it's honest, it's maybe that it is achievable. Maybe there are things that you never thought were possible. There's a difference between I can't do it, or I don't want to do it, I don't feel motivated to do it. What does it mean? Maybe it's just that you just don't think you can do it, or is it actually physically or emotionally or psychologically impossible? Is it really impossible? I think if you to take a chart and to write the things that you want to do and the circumstances that you think limit you from the ability to achieve those things, you might find that it's more a function of what you think you can't do versus that you actually can't do it. And once you realize that if you think you can't do it, just like you think you can't do it, there's also a possibility that maybe you think you can do it. What are the things that are necessary? That's what she says in her research, which is when you keep searching for ways to change your situation for the better, then you stand a chance of finding them. If not, then it's done. As many great authors have said, whether you think you can or can't, you're right? That's one of the great lines. Because what your mindset is, if you can do it, good. If you think you can't do it, then that's what it is. You're right. If you can, the likelihood is you can do it. If you can, you're right. You can do it. So, I mean, if you truly believe that things cannot change for the better, then you're correct, because you've concluded that. You've sided with that as the possibility without any other choice. Now, if you keep searching and you're a boidek, appropriate for being, Erev in the month before Passover, before Pesach, it's a bedikas chametz, it's a bedikas halev, it's a bedikas ha'adam. If you really truly search for ways to make things better, even if they have not yet manifested themselves, but you are not going to leave any stone unturned. You're not going to not dot every I, cross every T. You're going to not make every effort to achieve greatness. Of course you are. So likely, if that's the case, you already have, if you really truly, if you have not even seen and felt manifestation of good things, maybe they're coming your way. Maybe it's going to be, maybe there's a chance you're going to find success in that area. Very, very important to think about what is your mindset. How do you think if what it is that you believe you could do, you can do? Maybe you truly can. Famously, the Baal Shem Tov once said, in the palace of the king, using a parable, in the palace of the king, so he said there are many, many chambers. There are many different places. And each one of the chambers of the king, it needs a key. Every key, it needs a mafteach. It's a key. Now, there's one key. There's one key, like there's the master key. There's one key. There's one instrument that can open all the doors. Now, what's that key? It's the axe. You have an axe, you're going to knock down the doors, right? Every door has a key. You ever see those people that have like lots of keys on their, their belt? So they have a key for every room. Sometimes what you need is only one key. What's the key? It's the master key. You go to a hotel and you have someone who's servicing the rooms, and you left your key in the car, or you left the key in another location, you left the key in the room. You need to get in the room. So what do? They pull out a master key, they slice it, and wipe it in there, swipe it in there, and then you're into the room. You have a master key. What's the master key? We need to figure out what the master key is. Master key in life is the axe. What's the axe? So the axe is the heart. The axe is the motivated mind and heart, the spirit of the Jewish people. When your neshama is alive, when your heart is on fire, when you're pumping the energy that motivates and invigorates your want, desire, need to rise up and to accomplish, that's the axe. That is the all-purpose key. That is the swipe card that allows you entry and access into any place, any palace, any place in the kingdom. When a person passionately breaks his heart before the Almighty, and you use your heart to motivate you to accomplish good things, so you can smash any gate in the palace of the King of Kings, which means you can come as close as you need to come, as close as you want. It is, as relationships are, dependent on the one who wants it the least. The Almighty wants his relationship with us. He wants us to be close to him. So we who need to be motivated to feel limited by those doors that are closed, all you need is a mafteach, all you need is a key, but you don't need the right key for each room. You need the master key, because the master key is the right key. It is the only key that will give you access to every room. You don't have to be bogged down by the heaviness of the money of the key belt, the keychain that's pulling you down, that's making you lopsided. No. That belt that has all those keys need not have all those keys. It needs only one key. It needs one swipe card. It needs one key. That is the key that breaks down every single door that allows you ultimate, truest, closest access to the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies, access to the palace of the King of Kings, and the Almighty God, the best version of ourselves. But what I think the Baal Shem Tov is teaching here is that the heart, which is the seat of its emotional, it's intuitive. It's an intuitive way of gaining access to the deepest recesses of who we are. What is our mahus? What's our essence? Divine experiential knowledge, closeness to God, right? When we open up our heart, there's a sense that even it's beyond words. It is just the emotion that's alive. It speaks in ways that's the greatest definition of who we are and what we want to be, and how we can become the greatest that we see ourselves to possibly be. And just by way of using this concept and understanding the things that are roadblocks, the things that we think are a certain, way to get to happiness, to get to achievement, to feel complacent, where that is the antithesis of all that is accomplishing, all that is good. I just want to share with you a famous Dubin Amagid. The Dubin Amagid says a mashal, a parable that can help us answer how it is that we're able to get through, and what we realize, the things that hold us back, the things that diminish our wherewithal of high accomplishment, and to be able to now find it on a different level and finding great success. He says the following. The mashal is as follows. Famous. He says there was a poor farmer, a man of the field, and this poor farmer, he had a very wealthy relative, a wealthy uncle, and this wealthy uncle, he lived in the city, lived in the ear of the big town, and this uncle, so he invited him for a visit. He said, "Come to us, come for Shabbos, come for a weekday, come for a celebration, come visit Uncle whatever Ploni Almoni." So this poor farmer was more than happy to come to visit his uncle. Gosh, he's been trying to get in touch with him. He wants to have a relationship with him. And now that he's invited to come, so he's thrilled with the invitation. So he wastes no time, this farmer, this poor fellow, and he sets out right away, and he wants to go to his rich uncle's home. He's going to go as fast and expediently as possible. Now, when he gets there, he arrives on this particular day, and he gets to this location. So he's greeted with a tremendous amount of warmth. He's given a lot of love. Aha, my nephew. Oh my goodness, mishpacha. So welcome to our bayis, welcome to our home. And he's led immediately into a large dining room with a very, very long table. And this farmer's thinking to himself, wow, I got to take this all in. I cannot believe this. Look at this long table. It's impressive. Look at this room. It's unbelievable. So they sit together and they're talking, they're schmoozing, they're sharing stories. They're talking about what's been and talking about family. They're talking about the history and the lineage. Okay, you get the point. So that what happens in the middle of this conversation, so the uncle, wealthy guy, he picks up a brass bell and he clangs the bell. What happens when he clangs the bell? So immediately there was a troop of avodim, of servants. So they emerge from all of these like side doors. There was multiple side doors. He clangs this bell. And these servants, they emerge from the side doors and they have trays of food, trays of appetizers, all different type of delicacies. And they're all holding them very fancy. And they're all approaching the table. Now, the farmer, this fellow, he's never seen such food like this, so enticing in his entire life. He's like salivating. He's so excited. He's starving. Can't believe he's never seen anything like this. What happens? after the food is given. So then the servants, they return to the kitchen quarters. And again, the two relatives, they continue the conversation. Good, fine. A couple minutes later, the uncle, he clangs the bell again. The servants reappear, now taking away the old trays, and they bring out new ones with the first course. Now the next course is coming. They took away the first platters. Farmer's eyes are bulging out of his head. He never saw such enormous amount of quantities of food and such dedicated service. I cannot believe what's happening right before my eyes. Unbelievable. Now, this pattern continued throughout the entire evening. And every single time the uncle rang the bell, so an entourage of the servants, they answered the call. They removed the old food. They replaced it with the new food. With each clang, the poor farmer was more and more dumbstruck. He literally could not just imagine and believe, perceive what was happening. Just like, I cannot believe this. I'm like absolutely in a chalaim. I'm in a dream. So when it was time for him to leave, so this guy, this nephew, this farmer, he thanks his uncle profusely and he heartily, and he's just like, cannot believe this experience. He just can't believe the experience. He leaves, and on his way home, he makes a stop. Where does he stop? He stops at a local store. And this is as he's rushing home. He wants to tell his family, he wants to tell his mishpach about his experience. He cannot believe it, but he wants to stop first at the local store. What does he do? So he goes to the store, makes a purchase, puts the purchase in his rucksack, in his backpack, in his bag, and he runs home. And he gets home, and it's in the middle of the night. He wakes up his wife, and he's so excited. And he tells her, "You're never going to believe what I did. You're never going to believe it. It's unbelievable, this experience. You're not going to believe what I did." So he says, "What?" Well, she says, "What'd you do?" He says, "I spent our last penny." Now, for those of you who are listening, husbands and wives, I don't recommend you doing that without consulting the spouse beforehand. Not good business. But okay, what happens? "I spent our last penny." So she looks at her and says, "You did what? Mazeh, Anshuldiks, Slicha, Adoni, Ma Tose, what did you do? Are you kidding me? What's going on here? You did what? You spent all of our last money?" She says, No, don't worry about it. Eshes Chaya, sweetie pie, don't worry. I spent it on something that you'll thank me a million times over for buying. So he pulls out of his bag, says, "Look at it." He takes out of his backpack. He takes out of his pouch a brass bell, just like the one he saw at his uncle's house. A brass bell. She shows it to him. So this, the farmer says, it's called the magic bell. It's gewaldic. So his wife looks at him like he's nuts. "What are you, crazy? A bell? You took all of our money." So this guy is unfazed, he's undaunted. He says, "Look, you'll see. All you have to do is you pick up the bell, you ring it, and immediately the servants are going to come out, and they're going to serve us the most exquisite food, and course after course, until our hearts are content. You have no idea. All you got to do is, this is a magic bell. It's unbelievable. Trust me, I saw it. That's what happened. That's what we'll have to do. That is our ticket in. That is what we're going to use." So, of course, she looks at him like he's nuts because he was nuts. They ring the bell. And of course, no servants appear. Not a single servant appeared. Because we know that the bell possessed no magic. It only worked when it was used as a signal to the servants already waiting in the wings. And that's what we have to understand. That the signal that we send is the signal that is the sincere and motivated heart. When we get up, when we rise up, that's the signal. The signal is the waves, the shock waves, the energy, the alacrity, the zerizus, the getting up, the ratz katzvi, the run like the leopard, the one who wants ari like a lion, to the ratzon avinu shabashamayim, to do the will of God, not complacent, not sitting in solitude, not waiting in the wings, but up and at it. Kum la avodas habayre. You know what it is? You don't wave a bell. It doesn't just happen by chance. What the bell is related to, and the ability to wake ourselves up, is when our heart is on fire, when we are enthusiastic and we're ready to get up and not complacent, and everything that follows. And how it was ultimately, this chet ha'egel, the sin of the golden calf, and everything that came before and everything that comes after, and that which is still pervasive. Chazal tell us that there is still a remnant, a shtickle of the sin of the golden calf that still is present ad hayom hazeh. You know why? How can that possibly be? We believe in the concept of tshuva. There's something called the Rosh Hashanah. There's something called Yom Kippur. There's something called repentance. There's atonement. Ki bayom hazeh yechaper aleichem l'tayar esram. So how does that work? The answer is that it's still around because we still do this. It's only punishable al yidei, the fact that it's still something that we are held in its grip. When we are able to emerge from its grip. not to be lethargic, not to be religiously unmotivated, not to be uninspired, underactive, but to get ourselves active, excited, enthusiastic, to ring that bell. The ringing of that bell is the mitzvos, is the Shabbos, is all of the commandments that encourage us to bring ourselves closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's the ringing of the bell. That's the servants that are waiting, lurching up to the side. They're ready to serve us. What does it mean they're ready to serve us? It's not that we're being served, is that it represents that when we motivate ourselves, we're able to be satiated by everything that's available to us. The satiation happens with the accumulation of mitzvahs, not only in this world, of course, in the Olam Haba, but in this world as well. When we feel that sense of purpose, that sense of goal-driven life lived the way it's meant to be lived. And certainly while it's true that we take pride and satisfaction in what it is we've achieved, and nobody ever should diminish that, should always take a great pride in the things that you've achieved in life, the accomplishments, the places that you've traveled, and the places that you've gone. You must also be constantly and vigilantly concerned about what it is that we've yet to achieve. The day you stop wanting, yearning, planning, strategizing to achieve the next greatest, best thing is the day that you start your Yerida, your fallback. It's the first day of the beginning of the end. And what we hope that every single person will do by learning, says the Medrash, just even the value of this word, Vayeshev, Baal Pa'or, understanding how it affected by the Mechiras Yosef, understanding the significance of where this word, it means by Migdal Bovel. So everything happens in here, Vayeshvu, Vayoshav, Vayeshev, how it means that here in the case of Sisa, that they were complacent. If we fall into the trap of Vayeshev, of staying comfortably in a place without looking to grow or to improve ourselves any further, then we are prone, that we are likely to fall. It will not be an aliyah, but it'll be a yerida. We must constantly, says the Alka Yehuda, be working to improve and never experience a sense of Vayeshev, feeling complacent and content with who it is that we are. We yearn for Bikei Shalom and Shalva, but the Shalom v'Shalva happens when we are continuously open, hopeful, passionate, committed, determined to live our lives, yearning to be the very best version of ourselves every single day. That's the lesson of Vayeshev. That's the lesson of trying to understand how we can be just the best of ourselves, to get up and not remain complacent. And when we do this, we'll understand this very valuable lesson of the Alka Yehuda. We'll understand this lesson of the idea of realizing that when you stop searching for ways, so that's when your situation stops. That's when you never open a chapter that can be ever opened again. The palace of the king has many instruments. The instrument that breaks doors is the instrument of the heart, the Dubna Magid, that it's not just about the bell that brings the servants. You don't want to lose all your money. You don't want to lose all of yourself, all of your soul. You want to have that the bell that rings is a motivated and anticipating, excited, alive heart that now rings the bell, so that when you're served, not the physicality of the food, but when you serve the nourishment of the soul through Shmiras HaMitzvos and the performance of the commandments and an Avas Hashem and a Devekas to the Berei Lamim, so then you're going to eat course after course after course after course, bringing ourselves to have that sense of hana, that sense of pleasure and purpose, realizing that there's nothing greater than being greatly close to the Ribono Shel Olam, to the Almighty God, in every and any way possible, which it is all available for us. It is fixed for us to accomplish. It is fixed for us to be able to achieve. We just have to rise up and get to it and do it. I want to thank you again, Mark and Nancy, for your generous sponsorship. It should be as a chus for the Neshama Nancy of your dear and beloved mother. I thank you all listening and joining our learning this morning via the Boca Jewish Center Zoom room. And for those of you who have joined us learning together this morning via Facebook Live, I wish everybody a wonderful, uplifted, and a happy Thursday, and a beautiful, uplifted, and a beautiful Shabbos Kodesh. Great day, everyone.